You are listening to Skin, Earth, Vitality, the podcast where ancient wisdom meets modern vitality. If you are seeking to reconnect with your innate vibrancy, you're in the right place. I'm Emily Davis, a seasoned holistic esthetician and herbalist. Join me as we unlock the secrets of ancient skincare practices, explore the beauty of seasonal and nature-based living, herbalism, and true holistic well-being for you and the broader ecosystem. This podcast is brought to you by Stratum Aesthetics. Head to stratumaesthetics.com to find curated skincare, body care, and other wellness products hand-selected by me. Now enjoy the show. Hello, welcome in. This is episode 50. And before I get into today's episode, we're coming up on our 1-year birthday of Skin, Earth, Vitality. I started this show on February 5th of last year. And as I record this, this is, what day is it? January 16th. So we're about 3 weeks out from the 1-year anniversary episode. And I, on that episode, want to share listener questions, answers to listener questions. And so if you have a question that you're interested in, whether it be about skin or you're an esthetician and it's about business or whatever it may be, there's no box that I'm putting these questions in. Please send me an email. I'm going to put my email in the show notes. Send me an email or DM me on Instagram and send me your question because I would love to get into some good ones. Today, I'm actually going to do a reading from a Substack that I wrote February 27th of 2023. So it's almost been 2 years since I first wrote this. And it's kind of a piggyback on last week's episode about corneotherapy. So if you haven't listened to it yet, head to last week's episode. You do not have to hear last week's episode in order to understand and enjoy this one, but this is going to be getting into dermaplaning and why I don't recommend dermaplaning. I wrote this after I had removed it from my service menu. I had been offering dermaplaning for many years, and I just felt like it wasn't aligned anymore. And so this Substack is an essay of me telling why, kind of explaining it to my clients, and then also serving as an education piece for other estheticians. So this episode is for you if you're a consumer and you get dermaplaning and you're maybe interested in not getting it anymore. If you have not gotten dermaplaning and you're curious to know a little bit more about it, I think it's important to go into any treatment that you have done with eyes wide open. And it's also for you if you're an esthetician and you offer dermaplaning and you're considering not, or even if you're offering dermaplaning and you're happy with it. I think it's also important to always do everything with eyes wide open. So yes, that's what we're doing. Grab yourself a cup of tea, settle in, and let's get into it. In some ways, this is one of the most difficult pieces I've written. Not because I know it will ruffle some feathers. I'm okay with that, and I get it. When I first heard mumblings that dermaplaning isn't it, my feathers were a little ruffled. And I imagine that some estheticians might hear this, and on a deeper level, it could trigger a threat to survival because it's obviously part of how some of us make money and provide for ourselves. Or someone might love how their skin feels after and swear that they've done this for years and their skin is fine. My goal is not to change your ways, and it's not to convince you of anything. It is to provide information about the science of the skin in an easy to digest way, and then it's your job to take that information and feel into if or how it applies to your life. I aim to share what intuitively resonated with me and why I removed this offering from my menu. Writing this feels challenging because I have suggested this to clients for years. I thought I was doing something supportive for their skin and helping them to feel more confident and beautiful. But as I learn more, I have to pivot. I have to change and adapt to new information that I gather. The last thing that I want to do in my professional or personal life is to become stagnant or do something just because that's what I've always done. The beauty industry has touted for years that we must stimulate cell turnover for youthful skin. The primary way to do this is by utilizing exfoliation, removing the surface skin cell layers, or so we thought. Imagine how mind-blowing it was when I discovered that our cell turnover is healthy if we are adequately hydrated, because water is a catalyst for this enzymatic action. Getting antioxidant intake also improves the health of our cell turnover. Additionally, the turnover is healthy if cellular communication between skin cells is functioning well. And learning this made so much sense to me that I actually stopped exfoliating a few years ago because I prioritize a healthy life rich in hydration, antioxidants, healthy sun exposure. My skin started to get better than it had been when I was religiously using a glycolic wash and toner several days a week. It still took me several years to come to terms with the fact that maybe Dermaplane isn't as helpful as everyone says. However, it was the final nail in the coffin when I started exploring a philosophy called corneotherapy. This is the study and care of those surface layers of the skin. I started by discontinuing this service on myself first. My skin texture improved with fewer breakouts and more vibrancy in the weeks and months after. Seeing this, I then suggested it to some of my clients gently, and one by one, we started to see the same thing. To fully understand why, let me take you on a brief tour of the anatomy of your skin. Our skin is made up of layers called stratum. You can imagine a jar filled at the bottom with big, plump grapes, and then on top of those grapes, topped with dates. And then on top of those dates, we have raisins, and then grape nuts, and then finally on the surface, we have cornflakes. This visual represents what your skin cells look like if we were to take a cross section. The cell starts its life as that plump, juicy grape at the bottom, and as it moves up, it transforms into each different type of cell, slowly getting crunchier and flatter until finally at the top, it's a cornflake. It used to be thought that the cornflake cells in the surface layer of the skin were dead and superfluous. We now know that is not the case. The cells on the surface are crucial for communicating to that baby grape cell about the conditions of the outer environment, telling her what she needs to be successful in life as she makes her way up there. They are also crucial for protecting the skin from pollution and UV rays. Bottom line, they are there for a reason. Above the surface of the cornflake cell is a layer made up of mostly oils and other ingredients that seal the skin and the skin's microbiome. This is the skin barrier. The microbiome is vital for reducing infection, like that which causes acne, supporting healthy wound healing, producing collagen, reducing inflammation, and giving the skin a healthy glow. Dermaplaning shaves off the microbiome and the lipid layer. It also eliminates the adult cornflake cells on the surface and all their protecting and communication functions. Excessive exfoliation, like dermaplane, can lead to signs of impaired barrier defense, including dry skin, flaky skin, red inflamed skin, general skin allergies, dermatitis, psoriasis, keratosis pilaris. Invasive exfoliation is a short-term solution that doesn't support the proper skin health in the long run. The cycle I started to notice goes a little like this. Dermaplane, then my skin feels smooth. A few weeks later, the skin is dry, dull, and flaky. Dermaplane again. What if dermaplaning is making the skin feel dry, dehydrated, and flaky? It may or may not be in your skin, but it certainly isn't helping long term. Not paying attention to the integrity of these upper layers might work fine for a while. The invasive treatments and medical grade skincare make a beautiful band-aid, but you may wake up one day with dermatitis, which happened to me, fine lines and dehydration, dry, red, flaky skin that comes from barrier disorders in the skin, aka disruptions in the cornflakes. One of the biggest reasons people request dermaplane is to eliminate the fuzz. The thing is, who said we couldn't have vellus hair on our faces? Real skin has hair. Better options to remove include tweezing, threading, sugaring. And if you have excessive hair that bothers you, this may be a message from your skin that there's a deeper imbalance with hormones. Discovering the root cause of hormone imbalance is extremely important. If you aren't ready to give up dermaplane, I get it. No judgment here. Again, my goal is not to convince you of anything, but to share information so that you can consult your intuition and decide with your eyes wide open what is best for your skin. All right. Again, that is from my Substack, which I will also link my Substack in the show notes. I am changing up the format of my Substack a little bit. I was hosting my podcast on there, and I recently switched podcast platforms just because I wanted to have better analytics now that I'm a big girl with a podcast that's been out for a whole year now. And I also wanted to just make my Substack a little more creative, a little more reflective of what happens on that platform. And so that's going to be less education and more about just like musings on beauty and plants. It's called Flora and Face. So I do have that linked, and you can go subscribe there for some of those journal entries. I will be back on the podcast next week, and until then, be well. You've been listening to the Skin Earth Vitality Podcast. If you like what you heard today, consider giving me a 5-star rating. It helps other people just like you to find the show. You can shop products and find all of my offerings on my website, stratumaesthetics.com, and follow me on my social channels at Stratum Aesthetics.